Welcome to CosmoFactory, a podcast by Cosmoprof Worldwide Bologna, where we explore the entire cosmetics, personal care, and fragrance industry supply chain. I'm your host, Deanna Utrusky, and here at CosmoFactory, we look beyond the trends to discover the ideas, initiatives, and innovations that are truly advancing beauty. Let's get started. This episode is about machine vision and anonymized data. It's about skin analysis software, about virtual try-on technology, AI-supported R&D, and about how tech providers are establishing accuracy, accountability, and gaining consumer trust. Today, on the CosmoFactory podcast, I'm joined by Anastasia Georgievskaya, CEO and co-founder of Haut AI. Anastasia, welcome to CosmoFactory.
Thank you so much for having me, Deanna, and I'm excited to be here.
Of course, I'm happy to be speaking with you. Haut AI has been in business since, I believe, 2018 and currently offers two tech tools for beauty makers. The first you launched is AI skin analysis, and this gathers information from an image and then gives product recommendations. In beauty, this type of tech is not new, right? There are many companies around the world offering similar solutions to beauty brands of every size. I'm wondering what the end consumer might notice or benefit from if the brand they're shopping with uses a Haut AI solution. And I guess what I'm really asking here is what makes tech from one provider different from tech from another provider? I'm not asking you to say anything nasty about your competitors, but I really want to understand how nuanced and tailored skin analysis tech can be these days.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. And I totally agree that when skin analysis just appeared, it was just enough to have it because it's exciting, it's new, it has a wow effect. Let me look at this nice, new, shiny thing. Since skin analysis is everywhere right now, it's not novelty anymore. And you can also go to ChatGPT and without even using tool of any brand, get your skin analysis or, color analysis and style analysis. So I think what makes a good tech is first credibility, the authority of the technology and the brand who is implementing this technology in delivering information, insights, and data that has been validated. So I think this component of having a human in the loop and having technology which essentially is rooted in science and have biological relevance, this is what feels different for consumer. Because if I'm trying a tag and it just doesn't really hit because there's some inconsistencies or insights are very generic or recommendations feel very off, your skin type is predicted wrong, your skin cancer is predicted wrong, you instantly you're gonna feel, okay, why should I be using this skin analysis? It essentially is not just better when I look in the mirror myself. It doesn't really give me any insight, doesn't give me really any benefits. So I think what makes a technology different is how accurate technology is. Second thing is not only the technology itself, but all of the consumer experience. Because a great technology at the time that everyone has AI, essentially no one has competitive advantage because everyone uses AI. So what makes a good product and what makes a good provider, in my opinion, is ability to integrate technology in a very flexible way. So you can build a very seamless, very smooth, very consistent, because a modern beauty brand has multiple media channels, multiple sales channels. So if your use of AI is very constrained, you can only do specific things, one specific flow, it will not work for a brand because every brand has different strategy and everyone has different media presence in different sales channels.
Excellent. Thank you. I want to think about the second technology that I know about from your company, which is what we might think about as really virtual try-on for skincare or skincare treatments in particular. And if I'm learning my AI right, I think this sort of tech actually relies on what we think of as predictive AI. Can you tell us about the solution that you call Skin GPT?
Yes, absolutely. So SkinGPT is Haut's AI generative AI engine, which is capable of simulating or projecting effects of different interventions. And the type of interventions that SkinGPT supports include raw ingredients or finished products or specific effects, let's say sun damage or particle matter pollution or aging. In addition to that, you can also combine all of these effects to make multimodal effects. The technology was actually inspired by clinical trials and analysis of consumer studies of products, where we saw that, first of all, products work. The question is, are you using them consistently and are you using them long enough?
Mhm.
But even within this clinical study, we saw that consumers are not benefiting equally from the treatments. It's not a novel concept. I think it's very well studied in pharmaceutical field, where we know that some patients or some respondents just will be more acceptive to the treatment. They will just benefit more. But it's a similar thing in skincare, and we thought, why can't we then use AI to predict the outcomes of their specific study? Based on the clinical trial, we can learn about how the intervention impacts skin and how the cohort was benefiting from this treatment, and then we can apply this effect to essentially a new phase. For me personally, SkinGPT is an amazing tool because I think that still in the beauty space, there is not enough education about what products do, what ingredients do, how they are supposed to work. Is it fair to expect that I will be using this treatment and in 2 weeks I will look 5 years younger? My spots count will be like maybe I have 9 spots right now. Can I expect them to be free? And all of this ways of consumer education, whether through guidelines, textual information. Now we finally have this visual component. Exactly. SkinGPT can tell you based on the clinical trial data, this is what results you can expect. This is their visual representation.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's wonderful. I want to think about these technologies sort of in terms of how practical they are for the consumer at this point. I know, it was maybe 10 years ago, we heard a lot about this idea of gamification or game design as a way to attract and engage consumers. So I guess I'm wondering if the technologies you've described to us feel like something that consumers play with, or what the level of consumer trust is at this point. What is that balance between entertainment and usefulness?
Yeah. Before I answer about consumers, I want to say that in clinical, actually, SkinGPT is used by some of our clients to stimulate effects and conduct so-called consumer perception studies. We can even answer the question, what effect is enough so that the consumer has the conviction to buy this product? So
Mhm.
that goes beyond just what products do, because skincare is not only about the effects, it's about consumer self-perception and what they think others
Yeah.
think about
And
their
and what you're
appearances.
describing then is almost, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but like percent in formulation, right? How much of an ingredient maybe would belong in a product to then generate a result that the consumer is like, oh, that product works.
Exactly, exactly. Because brands, I think, saw that consumers want effective products. So
Mhm.
I think I saw some statistics that more than 80% of Gen Z will choose performance products over just the marketing message. So this changes the beauty industry and will give R&D teams the tools to keep up to the pace of consumer demand. But getting back to gamification, I think gamification is essentially a very good thing. Uh, if you look at a lot of the educational platforms, with Duolingo, Green Owl, I hope it's an owl, it's like funny bird. And when you get your words wrong, it like cries and like it rolls on the floor, and you can eventually just simplify. So I think it giving consumers tools that don't have to feel so serious, right? So just try on some ingredients, and this can spark some ideation. Like if it's gay, it's even okay. Like I shouldn't be even feeling uncomfortable. I didn't know about how these ingredients work, but it's gay, and I think this takes out their arrogance out of the conversation. Uh, it's okay not to be a skincare guru. It's okay not to be a skinfluencer. You can just educate yourself at your own pace in the format of conversation, or previewing a couple of ingredients on your own face. So I think it's good to give more options for customers to discover the skincare world.
Yeah, no, I like that because as you're describing it, it sort of takes that shame aspect out for the consumer. But I think it's a helpful reminder for some folks who might be highly educated in the science space and want to share that information with consumers that we can share it effectively, but we don't all have to sort of do it in the same way, right? We don't have to learn in the same way as the person sitting next to us or the consumer might. That's so interesting to think about. And I like that were helping us think about product development there with this sort of technology. I'd love to hear more about that, how product research and development happens with a tool like Skin GPT, or even is it being used for ingredient R&D as well?
So the Skin GPT is a part of our clinical R&D suite of products. Um, what the first step is, we help our customers, again, it could be ingredient manufacturer or could be finished product manufacturer, collect information about actual product performance. This can be done using professional clinical images or over selfies. So we collect this data, it's very standardized, and then we can build prompts based on the clinical trial of this ingredient or product. After that, we can better apply this prompt on the new faces to generate more materials, whether we want to build marketing materials, let's say royalty-free materials, or some materials that are like allowed for publication on our website. And the second part, is, as mentioned before, is studying the perception of appearance. So in some of our studies, we have seen that when you combine effects and products actually target several key concerns, it produces more impact and more effect on consumer compared to just, let's say, treating your pigmentation and it really goes down. It may have lower perception of, the product work compared to improving pigmentation maybe by less degree, but also improving redness and like overall skin fairness. I think that's also important because in the end, marketing is not only about promoting the product, but meeting the demand of the customer, right? So maybe the customer doesn't really care about how much percentages their pigmentation change, but they like how they look when, let's say, they combine two effects. So we essentially help formulators tap into this psychology of perception. So how consumers want to look, essentially. And can they again give it an illustration? Because before, of course, everyone wants to like look beautiful, like probably younger, like have a better skin tone, or more plump skin. But can we give it a visualization?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. We're learning what people think beautiful is in a whole new way. Um,
Yeah,
you mentioned creating images. Just to help me get clear on this, the sorts of images that your technology creates are for marketing purposes. Can they be used as clinical photos, or that's probably a legal issue? Help me think about how these sorts of images make sense.
yeah, I think that everything related to AI is still kind of yet to be defined. What is specific framework? Um, Obviously, all the images should be labeled as generated by artificial intelligence and that they have been modified. These are not real pictures. But the images are, we are now piloting their use of generated images for marketing to illustrate effects of products. And I think it's quite different from what you usually would hear about use of Gen AI in marketing when it comes to faces. For example, Dove Real Beauty made a statement that they will, with the introduction of Gen AI, they still will not use any type of generative AI technologies to modify the image and faces and the looks of real humans. But Skin GPT in that sense is different because it allows you to demonstrate effects of the product, and consumer can do it in their own photo. Um, and I think it's more rooted into education rather than marketing. Because, sometimes the facts what you see in the clinical trials, they're not as impressive as your average before and after when you walk into retailer store. And
Mhm.
why is that happening? That's because a lot of brands would pick up the best photo. It's like one in our cohort has this amazing effect, but everyone didn't. Everyone else did not. So SkinGPT is actually can make it more fair because they can take an average effect and we can show this is what you can expect based on the average. So, and that's much more real than one cherry-picked photo that had amazing results, but everyone did not have these amazing results.
No, it's interesting because the technology is really changing from things like Photoshop and Instagram filters into something that is much more rooted in reality. And that sort of trust is building. Before we finish up, I want to talk about this idea of facial image anonymization technology, which I think is super interesting. And I'll just say what I think it is, but I really want to hear what you know that it is and how you're using it. But for me, this is basically keeping the not necessarily the data of my face, but the identity of my face private from the tech provider, maybe private from the brand, in the same way that I might not, want to share my email address or password with, a tech provider. It's encrypted in some way. So help me think about facial image anonymization, which is fun for me to try to say. um, what is this? How does it work? Why are you using it? Is this a data privacy thing? What's going on here?
The technology that you mentioned, skin anonymization, we in Haut AI call it Skin Atlas. It's our patented technology that allows to take any face image, whether it is high resolution, lab image, or it's a photograph that you have captured with your phone, it's like a selfie, and produce an anonymized derivative which is compatible with our image analysis system. We can extract still all of their facial skin metrics, but we will not use the original photo, but rather this anonymized derivative. I think that there was an article in Harvard Business Review saying, a lot of innovation happens when not in a way you expect, it's not planned, and it's not in the roadmap. And Skin Atlas is an example of this type of spontaneous innovation because before we decided to use Skin Atlas for anonymization, we essentially were working on methods to optimize speed and performance of AI systems. So we wanted to build a format that doesn't make mistakes when they look at the eyebrows and the hair color, or like essentially discriminate people by the way they style their hair. And as an outcome, we realized, oh wow, it looks like now the system is very accurate, but also the image is no longer personal images, like completely, it's like transformed. It doesn't really look like a face anymore. And we thought, okay, why don't we use it for anonymization? Because, algorithms just work better with it and we don't really need the original face. And there is no, for us as a company, there is no reason why we would hold original face image because a lot of the privacy laws, a lot of the risks that this imposes. So then we decided to, talk to our customers and say, hey, would you like to shift to anonymized processing? And I would say 99%, I think like 100% said yes, just give it to us. And I think that what the idea is for businesses, of course, it's mitigating all the privacy risks and all of the complexity associated with that. It's also a question of trust, consumers knowing that you're really here to provide me the service and not to use my data for some type of other side applications that we, in our contract with the terms and conditions or in our social contract as me being your loyal customers, we didn't agree to. It's quite funny, but we still have to, talk about these things in 21st century. But, essentially, if you are leveraging someone's resources, it has to be on the fair terms. So I think that Skin Atlas technology is fair for consumers because it preserves their privacy. It's also better for companies because navigating privacy laws is extremely challenging. And it's also better for Haut because our system actually works better with anonymized format because we have specifically designed this Skin Atlas to improve the performance of our AI systems and skin analysis algorithms.
Yes, yes. Oh no, that's fantastic. I appreciate all of that information. And I just want to ask one quick follow-up question. Is there any noticeable change in terms of that personalization aspect? You mentioned that it doesn't necessarily look like my face anymore. So does the customer notice anything? Do they feel like maybe this isn't as personal? Is this a more generalized recommendation or information that comes out of anonymized tech?
Yeah, here's the thing. While we no longer have the original photo, the prediction of skin features essentially more accurate.
Hmm.
So as an outcome, your recommendations and the conversations that you will have for our LLM systems will be more personal. When we have in this new model that we call Skin Atlas and also our new generation of skin analysis metrics, we can differentiate different types of lines, gradient lines, fine lines, deep lines, nasolabial folds. So we couldn't do that before when we didn't have this anonymized format. So essentially now we can even get very targeted recommendations, for example, for pigmentation. If you have sunspots, we have specifically the product that works in the stubborn sunspots, or opposed to having melasma, then probably you will need different products. So in a way, this analysis is better on not only the level that it's anonymized, but also like just from the quality of level of recommendations and insights you can get from the system when you are using this new module with anonymization.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, Anastasia, I have to thank you for sharing your time, your knowledge with us here today, and of course, for being a guest on the CosmoFactory podcast.
Thank you so much, Dan. It was an amazing conversation, and thank you for all the listeners for staying with us.
Thank you so much for listening. If you find the CosmoFactory podcast useful, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star review and share your thoughts so even more cosmetic industry professionals can discover the CosmoFactory. I'm Deanna Utrusky. Please join me again next Tuesday for a new episode of the CosmoFactory podcast.